Hi everybody, welcome to the Bukharian Experience with your host Moses Niazova. This is episode 1, and we have a special guest over here, a good friend of mine, Dr. Israel Shimunov. He graduated Queens College for undergrad, and for graduate school he went to Columbia University for dental.
Yep.
And pleasure to have you here.
Pleasure to be here.
Just a disclaimer, we're not going to be talking about medicine in this podcast.
Yeah, nothing to do with dentistry or medicine. And another disclaimer, obviously I'm a dentist. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a CPA, CFA, none of that stuff. I'm just a guy trying to learn as much as possible about finances over the years, probably about 3-4 years from now, 3-4 years before. And that's pretty much it. I want to just share some of the things that I learned, hopefully help some people out. And a lot of things are my passion when it comes to finances, such as student loan planning, retirement planning, and just in general financial freedom. And I feel like everybody in our Bukharian community could benefit from any sort of information that we could get from each other, bounce information off each other as much as we can, and learn new things. And that's how we progress as a community together. So that's pretty much it.
Beautiful. That's exactly why I started this podcast, is to get more information to our community. You know, our community, very unique community. We're very tight knit. You know, and we love helping each other. You know, I grew up with this community. It was helping me all the time.
Of course.
And I want to give back. Now, this podcast, just a little background, is going to be talking about student loan debt, personal finances, retirement planning, and all the good stuff.
Great.
All the good stuff. And most importantly, hopefully, by the end of this podcast, we could learn a little more on how to be financially free.
Perfect. Okay, so do you have any questions you want to start out with?
Yes.
I know you had a burning one before.
I had a burning one. Is Dr. Israel telling me, hold it. I was like, I want to say it.
All right.
So I just want to give a little background again. Anytime I have a financial question, even though Dr. Shimunov is not an accountant, not a CPA, not a financial advisor, he's like my go-to guy. I call him about anything financial. So personally, he helped me a lot in my life, and so let's help the world.
Awesome.
Okay, so look, student loan debt. Okay, everybody has it. A lot of people have it. A lot of people going to college and getting a lot of debt. The question is, how can an 18-year-old knows nothing about finances, nothing about budgeting, nothing about repayment, refinancing, interest, how can they be allowed to get hundreds of thousands of loans? Like, how's this possible?
So it's actually a new invention. Before, when we used to take out loans, we used to go to private lenders, and they used to set a cap. They used to give us high interest rates and set a cap on how much we could borrow. Now Sallie Mae came along by the government and gave unlimited borrowing, which raised the prices to schools like dental schools, pharmacy schools. That's why you see a hike in prices of dental schools, from them being like $20,000 about 30-40 years ago a year. Yeah, to now being $500,000 almost, depending on which school you go to. And NYU is close to $100,000 every single year, so that's with interest for 4 years. It's about $500,000 when you come out of school. So now that this happened, there's unlimited borrowing. Since the government gave unlimited borrowing, the schools started getting a little more, nuggly. So they started hiking their prices as much as they can, as much as government could allow. So that's what allowed for this to happen. So come 2012, President Obama actually enacted something called repay and pay. So it's a pay as you earn and repay as you earn, revised pay as you earn programs. Each one of them is either 20 years or 25 years. Each one of them.
This is to repay the loan that you have.
The student loan that you took out during your school time. So each one of them is one is 20 years, which is the pay, which is the original one. Then repay came along, 25 years. So you might ask, why would you take a 25-year loan versus a 20-year loan? So a little background, 25 or 20-year loan, you still pay 10% of your income. Doesn't matter. And it's actually not regular income. It's called adjusted gross income. Okay. So adjusted gross income is basically 150% times poverty level. So the poverty level is about $12,700 for a person. So that means just to survive, we need $12,700 federally. That's what the federal government.
In America, poverty level for America.
Exactly. So 12,700 gets deducted. So 12,700 times 150 gets deducted. So it's about 19,700 gets deducted off your
20 grand
off your income. Exactly. So let's say if you have a 100K income minus 20K, so you have 80K left over. And let's say if you have any more kids, they deduct another 6K for every kid. For any kind of dependent, they deduct another 6K. So you have, let's say, you have like 60K left over, let's say.
After your deductions.
After your deductions. So they take that number and they take 10% of that. So that's $6,000 divided by 12. So your monthly payment will be $500 based on your adjusted gross income. Okay.
So who takes that money, the 10%? The government?
So you have to send it back to the government, obviously. Yeah. So the Studentloans.gov, and you have your own loan service provider, let's say Nelnet, Green Lakes, I believe. The one that I have is Nelnet, so I don't know all the other ones. And you just send them over monthly. Okay. Every time you send it over monthly, your payment reduces. Obviously, it's pushed more towards the interest instead of the principal payment. Okay. So basically, the gist of it is you pay 10% of your income for either 20 years or 25 years. Okay. So you might say, if I'm paying 10% of my income, why would I extend it for 25 years? Okay. And what happens at the end of the 25 years or 20 years? So one of the things that happens is something called loan forgiveness, and it's not total loan forgiveness. Let's say, I'll give you an example. Let's say a typical dentist, $500,000 in loans for 20 years. You pay 10% of your income. Let's say you have a $200,000 income. Let's say, forget the adjusted gross income, $200,000, 10% of that is $20,000 a year.
20 grand a year.
20 grand a year for 20 years.
That's
it's
400,000.
400,000, right? So at 6.65% interest rate, that's about, it's supposed to be altogether about $900,000. Okay, you already paid off $400,000 off of it. You have $500,000 left over at the end of 20 years, and the government says, okay, we could forgive this amount, but you have to pay tax on it. You're going to take it as income. So
everything that's left
the whole
over.
$500,000. Okay, so you gotta take the $500,000 and you either in 30-40% tax bracket. So let's say 40% tax bracket, 500K times 40, 200K tax. You pay that 200K tax, the rest is forgiven, which is 300K. At the end, if you look at it, it's 400,000 that you paid plus 200,000 that was the tax bomb. So technically,
compared to 900,000
on a $500,000 loan, you just paid $600,000. You didn't stress yourself out, and it took you 20 years to do it, little by little, and only 10% of your income. So the way I think about it, the 10% is actually like extra tax of 10%. Okay, so instead of us paying 30%, we pay, let's say, 40%, or instead of 40%, we pay 50%. But at least we're not getting stressed out. So a lot of people, they think they got to pay off their loans as soon as possible with a $500,000 loan. That equates to you paying monthly about $5,000 after taxes.
After taxes.
So before taxes, $8,000 you got to make a month just to pay off your student loan debt. That's $500K. It's better to, I think, I mean, one of the options depends how much loans you have. I think it's better to prolong it for 20 years, okay? Depending on every situation is different, of course.
So basically, just a summary. You just went straight at it. You just gave us a way to get out of debt in 20 to 25 years student loan debt by something called pay and repay. Pay
as you earn and
pay as you earn.
Revised pay as you earn.
And revised pay as you earn.
Is this for government loans or also for private loans?
So this is only for government loans.
Only for government.
Only for government. So the best thing about the government is that they give you a lot of, forgiveness, let's say. Like what we have right now during COVID, we have a COVID forbearance, for example. We have it from the time that it started to the time that it's ending, which is September 30th. It's a year and a half. Okay, a year and a half where all interest and payments are frozen.
Just for government loans.
For government, exactly. For private loans, everything still goes as usual.
Everything still goes.
Exactly. I'll touch upon that later. But basically, for the next year and a half, there's no interest and there's absolutely no payments. So some people, let's say, that have only 100K, 50K in loans, the best thing to do right now is to start paying it off. Okay, the interest is frozen. Nothing else is happening. People are not going out to weddings, paying $400, $500 a seat and stuff. The best thing to
That's
do.
the best time to tackle it.
Tackle it if you have 50 to 100K. The usual, by the way, all this information I'm getting is not from my own head. It's a great website, Studentloanplanner.com.
Studentloanplanner.com.
Yes. So he's a certified financial planner, used to work in Wall Street, quit his job, started his own firm, and he does solely student loan planning. It's a plug for him. I make nothing off of it, but it's $400, and he'll literally go over your whole life and everything you need to know, what your goals are.
Wow. And
he has a student loan calculator. You could find it on his website, and it'll break down what's the best option for you. It's very comprehensive. He posts a video on YouTube. If anybody wants to check it out, we could put a link at your podcast.
We'll put a link.
Yeah. So basically, he'll head to head combine everything together, and he'll show you how much you're going to end up paying with pay, how much you're going to end up paying with repay, which is a 25-year, how much you're going to pay with refinancing the loan, and if it's worth it for you.
Wow.
So
so that's only for government loans, right? Now, let's just say you're a college student, 18 years old, 19 years old, right? Does the college student have a choice to pick between government and private? Would you recommend government versus private versus government?
Definitely.
What would you recommend the 17 to 19, 20-year-old that's like fresh in college?
Definitely. So when you just start out, when you go to undergrad, there's something called a subsidized loan. A lot of people with hardships, which a lot of Bukharians could claim, they basically don't let the interest kick in for the time that you're in school. So let's say my example, I don't have subsidized loans, but let's say if I were to have a subsidized loans, if I claimed hardship, I would, let's say, take out $30K. That $30K stays $30K until I finish my dental school training, which is 8 years from now. Okay, so no interest on that student loan debt.
That's only if you claim hardship.
Only if you claim hardship, so and you get subsidized loan.
You go to like the financial aid office. You just say, "Hey, I want to claim hardship."
Well, yeah, they have to look at your financials, your parents' financials, where you live, how much they make.
Well, you have to be proactive, right? It's not no one's gonna come to you and say, "Hey, listen, maybe you could claim hardship." Right?
Well, right, yeah, exactly.
You gotta do your research, be proactive.
Right. So it's very hard to get a subsidized loan like that because it's an interest-free loan essentially for the next 8 years. That's the best thing you could ever do. So whereas once you get into dental school or any other professional school, there's something called Grad Plus loan or Stafford loan. Those two are, so there's a Stafford loan, which has a lower interest. Let's say you could have a 5% interest. Now it's probably going to be about 4%. Then there's a Grad Plus loan. That's once you max out your Stafford loan, you turn to the Grad Plus loan. So that's about 6% interest. So those, the second you take it out, it starts accruing interest.
Right away.
Every single day, exactly. Until you graduate, and even any kind of forbearance. So forbearance, for those that don't know, forbearance is whatever we have now. That's once in a lifetime special type of forbearance, the COVID forbearance, where no interest is being taken out. When you take a regular forbearance, which is what the federal government also allows us to take, which is 3 years. We have to recertify every year. Let's say 1 year you lost you lost your job or something. You could just tell to the government. You could recertify your
forbearance.
You recertify your loan, saying, "Listen, I lost my job. Let me get into forbearance." So during the forbearance period,
and anyone could do this, right?
Anybody could do this.
Anyone could apply for forbearance.
It has a student. I don't recommend it though. I'll tell you why now. Okay. So for 1 year,
these are just. We're giving people different ideas.
Exactly.
Right?
What you could do.
Different things to look at.
Exactly.
It's not just like, okay, it's 8% interest, pay for it.
Right. Exactly.
Different situations. We're just trying to.
It is just like tax planning. Once everybody starts making money, you're gonna have to sit down with your CPA and you're gonna have to say, how do I save as much taxes? Money. Especially if you have a business. If you're a sole proprietor or LLC, you have to save. You have to save as much money as possible legally, obviously.
Yeah.
And by saving that, it also reduces your adjusted gross income. Let's say if you spend on the car or something like that as a business expense, your AGI gets lowered because it's a business expense. If you spend it as dining out with a client, also your business expense, as a business expense, it goes down. Rent, anything, any payroll. So from that, AGI will be taken, and 10% of that is what you pay towards your loan. So essentially, what everybody should be doing is paying as least amount as possible towards their loans. So what they could do is reducing their adjusted gross income. How do they do it? By either investing into a 401k or a traditional IRA. So that also, those are one of the few things that reduce your adjusted gross income. If you don't have a business, if you're a W-2 employee, the best thing to do is reduce your income by either putting a 401k or traditional IRA.
We'll talk about that
A little later.
A little later
Right.
what that is. But that's we're talking if you have a federal loan.
Federal loan.
So
Now, for federal loan, let me just finish it up.
yes.
For federal loan, there's a lot of things, okay? There's a lot of little details that I probably wouldn't be able to, it probably wouldn't enter my mind right now, but there's so many details, and the only way you could find out is going to these websites. Anybody can learn this information. It's out there. You just got to be interested. I'm just a little more passionate about it because my wife graduated pharmacy school about 3 years ago, and I knew I had to already figure this stuff out. So I knew it before I graduated because she graduated a year before me. I knew all the stuff before I graduated, and then once my graduation approached, we went over this again with a financial planner and everybody, and whoever is, our financial aid office. They gave a whole lecture. It was a good refresher.
Why wouldn't everybody be interested in this? Aren't you saving money? Is making money?
Exactly.
That's what my mom used to say.
The biggest thing right now is I was the same way. I'm guilty of it. I posted this also on Modern Day Bukharians.
Shout out to A-Town.
Yeah, great Facebook page.
Great, I love it.
So what happened when I was just got into dental school, just got accepted? I started reading all these forums about, oh my God, $500,000 in debt. How are you ever going to get out of it? First, you have to spend 9 years of your life in dental school and undergrad. Then you come out and you got to spend another 10 years of your life just paying it off by paying $3,000 to $5,000 a month. It just you by the time you're 45, you're only going to be able to start living your life. It makes no sense.
Crazy.
It makes more sense. The best financial loan that we have right now at our disposal is the federal government, which gave us. You're never going to find a loan like that. By the way, a lot of people are confused that they think, and I came across so many people I was debating this with. The fact is that the student loan payment is not compounding. Okay, so compounding interest just basically means you get interest on your interest. So let's say you have $100,000 in loans, then you have 10% in interest. At the end of the year, that 10% of interest will go on top of
$10,000.
Yeah, so now you're going to have next year $110,000 and 10% of that. So that's $11,000
Every year your interest grows.
Yes, exactly. So now you get interest on your interest.
That's compound interest.
That's compounding interest, and that doesn't apply to student loans, especially federal student loans, which is great.
It doesn't apply.
It doesn't.
I didn't know that.
Where exactly, a lot of people didn't know that. Where it does apply is, let's say, credit card debt. Okay, so credit card debt, it applies. So you have a 20% credit card debt. It compounds itself, so it's the worst kind of debt to have. But anyways, you have this simple interest. So what is a simple interest? There's compounding interest, which we just discussed, and there's a simple interest. Simple interest is you basically have 100,000, 10% of that gets added to a separate bucket. Then you have next year you have another 10% that gets added to a separate bucket. Now you have 20K here, 100K here. Next year you get another. So every year you just have to pay 10K more in interest, okay? Whereas in compounding interest, you have to pay interest on interest. Exactly.
So I have a question. Can you pay just on principal?
The first thing that it applies to is interest. And
interest. The first thing you have to pay was, okay.
And that's the best thing to do. So let me give you a small little neat example. I always give this to people. Pull up your calculator, and I'll give you a question.
Everyone, pull up the calculator.
I'll give you a question. So let's say if I give you, I'll give you a little, a choice. I'll give you 1 cent right now.
1 cent right now.
And I'll double it every day for the next 31 days. Or I'll take out a briefcase with $5 million and I'll hand it to you right now. Which one would you take? So 1 cent and double it every day for the next 31 days, or $5 million and I'll hand it to you right now.
See, these type of questions in high school, when it was weird, I used to
mess with you.
The 1 cent, I know, I'm just going to guess. Let's see.
Okay,
0.01.
So which one would you guys choose?
Okay, wait, how much? $5 million?
$5 million right now.
I'll take the $5 million.
Just take the $5 million.
If I have a cent a day with the payment plan and the contract and $5 million,
right?
Give me the $5 million.
Right.
What do you guys think? $5 million or a cent a day?
Okay, so here's a little trick. It's very interesting. So I don't know if this is true, but Einstein said that compounding interest is the 7th wonder of the world, or 6th wonder. I don't remember. So we'll try it right now. The way a little background. Actually, let's do this.
Let's do
this. So let's do. You wanna actually do it?
Okay, so we're doing 0.01.
Actually, just one. Just start with
1 cent.
We'll divide it by 100 to make it. Okay, 1 times 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I'll do it 30 times.
9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So stop at 20.
11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22,
No, whoa, stop at 20.
Oh, so,
Anybody
okay.
stop at 20?
I got up to like 20 million.
You stopped at 20?
I like
think
those
so.
numbers.
I did it quick. I just did a little
Okay.
random.
So if you stop at 20,
Okay.
if I remember correctly, you'll get about $10,000. Okay, around there, around $10,000 to $20,000.
On the 20th day.
20 by the 20th day, you get 20K, and you're like, I knew I should have taken the $5 million. 20 days, 2/3 of the time already elapsed, and I only made 20K. Okay, so this is where compound interest kicks in. So try to do the. So let's start with
20,000.
Yeah, let's start with 20,000, or it was 10,000, but whatever. Times it by 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You get about $20 million. Okay.
Show the camera the 20 million.
Well, I'm sure they'll see it in their phones. So you get about $20 million. So that's the whole idea of compound
So from
interest.
10,000 to 20,000. So it took from 0 to 20 days.
It took
you
you
only got 10,000.
Exactly.
And then 10 more days you just wait and you got 20 million?
$20 million. Yeah,
20 million.
4 times as much as what I offered you. So that's the same. That's called.
That's the first wonder of the world, bro. Not the sixth.
All right. So that's called exponential growth. So it's the same thing with the coronavirus. Okay. They said it doubles.
We say we're not talking about medicine today.
Right.
Kidding.
Well, like it doubles every
Okay.
day and starts with 2 and 3 and 4 and
Yeah.
then whatever. So the same thing with exponential growth. It goes like this. It goes very slow the first 20 years or 20 days, and then it shoots up. So the same thing with interest, student loan interest. If you have it on a credit card or whatever, unlike the federal government. So the federal government just says, you know what, just pay simple interest so it doesn't have to snowball like that and you're completely paralyzed from all that student debt. So it's simple interest. It's only, let's say, on a 100K loan,
You get 10,000 if it's 10% interest.
yeah, you'll get
10%
let's say
every year,
It's mostly
constant.
most people probably have about 6%. So say $6,000 every year. Okay, so it's different. So for people that let's say earn 50 to 100K and they only have 100K in loans, it's probably best to refinance. For people that have huge loans,
When you say refinance, okay. So wait, before we continue, everyone should check. Are your loans simple interest or
so everybody's
compound?
loans will be simple
Okay,
interest.
we have confirmation.
For sure. Except unless you have a credit card loan.
Okay, fine. Credit
Even
card.
mortgage and car payments are simple interest.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
because what usually people do, like I did when I just got into dental school, I just took my calculator. I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna have $400,000 in loans, times that by 6%, times it by 6%. I kept multiplying the same amount with the principal, not the interest with the principal together. So I kept doing it, and I ended up being with 400,000, like 1.5 million or something like that. I'm like, oh my god, I'm never gonna be able to pay this off. So that's not true
That's not true.
with the federal student loans. It's simple interest. So
How about private loans?
private loans the same.
Same thing,
It's
same thing.
it's simple interest.
Okay,
Okay.
fine. So we got that down.
The only reason why it's smart and what student loan planner advises, it's smart to have federal loans right now because look at times like these. Times like these, the government bails you out. Okay, it'll know if you're messing up somewhere, if you just lost your job, if there's something called something like a pandemic happening, they do put a forbearance. Yes, this is like once in a lifetime, but there's other ways. Look, let's say if somebody were to lose their job tomorrow, they're making 200K, they're paying 10% of their student loans, and they lost their job for whatever reason. They could go to student loan planner, even though they were paying, let's say, $1,300 a month. They could go to Studentloans.gov, and their student loan service provider, and they could recertify, saying there's an option saying I just lost my job, and they will recalculate the loan and give you a 0% payment now, a $0 payment.
Because you're not making any money.
Exactly.
Because 10% of zero is zero.
Is zero, exactly. So now you're paying $0 until you find a job and you go back and you recertify and saying, now I got a job. And now they ask you, so there's two ways they ask you, what kind of, what's your income? The best thing is advice to the new grads, not now because of COVID and we have, student loan forbearance. The best thing that's advised.
People that are in college now, when they graduate.
Right, when they graduate, about the time that they graduate, especially people in dental school, what you have is, your interest keeps going from the time you take it out, unless it's subsidized loans like we discussed. It keeps going from the day you took it out. From the day you graduate, there's something called a grace period for 6 months, and everybody gets it. Whether you're a pharmacist, a lawyer, dentist, whatever it is, everybody gets a 6 months grace period where you don't have to make any payments, but interest still goes.
Interest still grows.
So a little trick that a lot of people could use is the day you finish school, instead of taking that six months 6 months interest, 6 months interest free, you could just say, I want to waive that 6 months interest. So there's a little trick. Waive it. Okay.
Waive the grace period.
Exactly. No 6 months.
Why?
So remember when I spoke about the 20-year versus 25 years?
Yes.
Okay, you would say, why would I pay another 5 years extra, 10% of my income, when I could just be over it and do the 20? Mm-hmm. So there's a little trick, the repay. So the second one that came out.
The second one is the 25 or 20?
25.
Okay.
So the second one is the 25-year one. That one came out, and you basically, the way it goes is like this. Let's say your income is zero, and you have $20,000 in interest every year. You have to pay off. You know, it accumulates on a whatever $200,000 loan, 10%, $20K. What the government says is, if you let's say if you make $0 or whatever,
you just graduated college,
just because you graduated college, if you make $0, whatever student loan interest that you haven't paid for that year. So let's say we have $20K and you didn't pay that $20K because you have no money. The government steps in and pays half of it. So it's going to pay $10K of it right now.
But if you take the grace period,
the
$10K that you didn't pay.
Not only that, it's also you get no subsidy for that 6 months. So a little trick is that I learned from this website and other websites is that once you graduate, for dentists especially, you say right away, I waive the grace period. Okay, when that happens, remember the old.
How do you get it? Like you just call the bank?
No, everything is on Studentloans.gov.
Everything is on Studentloans.gov. Yeah. So if you guys don't know,
that's the federal government.
If you guys want to know what type of loans you got for federal government,
they'll tell you. So the first day you graduate, they will say like this. You said, okay, I have zero income. Okay, that's because you have, anyways, 30 days probably before you start finding a job. You say, I have zero income. They say, okay, to prove you have zero income, can we see your tax returns? Most of us don't have any income while we're in school, especially in graduate school. You say, okay, here's my tax return. Or if you didn't file, you could just say, I haven't filed because I never made anything. They take that tax returns from last year and they calculate your payment. It's zero. Okay, now you're on repay. You're on zero. Your payment is zero. You calculate zero. You get to the end of the year. The government says, okay, you have $20,000 that you haven't paid of interest. We're going to take care of half of it. So now you just saved. So instead of, let's say, if you have an interest rate of 10%, now it's effectively like it's 5% interest. Okay, you just slashed it in half. So what happens next year? So next year you could refinance with this year. Not refinance. Sorry, you could recertify. Every year you have to recertify your federal loans. Okay. So this.
What do you mean recertify? What does that mean?
Recertify is that they ask you at a specific time where you first certified, saying, okay, this is how much I make.
This is only when you do the repayment plan.
Repayment plan, and everybody's going to be. So a little statistic: 43 million people out of 47 have federal student loans. Okay. Only 4,000 people. Only 4,000. Only 4 million people have some repayment sort of federal. No, sorry, have private. 4 million people have private.
40 million have federal.
And 42 million have federal. So most of us have federal. 92% of the population is federal.
I feel like out of the 40 million, maybe like 500,000 knows about the repayment plan.
Of course. I mean, they have student loan counseling when you just graduate, before you graduate, but it's like a 1 hour or 2 hour course. Nobody knows what's going on. Anyway,
especially because of COVID. I mean, my wife's in school right now. Mm-hmm. She's in Toro, and bro, she's trying to email the financial aid office. This, that. How do I do this? How do I get the loan? It takes 5 days and people just give up. People just click, okay, give me the loan.
They're pretty useless.
I know a person that didn't know what he was doing. He applied for the same loan 5 times.
Whoa.
So they reran the credit 5 times.
Oh my God. But
5 times.
Here's the interesting thing you say that. Another little tidbit. When they run your credit for a specific thing, let's say a refinance of student loans, anything that happens within 30, 45 days, you could do as many hard pulls as you want. They all get grouped into one. Because the federal, not the federal, why I keep talking about the federal government, sorry. So your
Wait, that's all debt?
Most debt, yeah.
Like mortgages, like if I want to get a mortgage.
Exactly. When you have a morttage as well, everything.
See, this is why I call this guy for all financial purposes. So basically, if I want to get a loan, I can go to like 5 different banks.
5 different lenders. If it's as long as it's within 30 to 45 days.
30 to 45 days.
Yeah, you could basically shop because the FICO score, the FICO score knows that you're shopping around. Your credit reporting agency knows that you're shopping around for something. You're not just randomly, just opening debt everywhere. You're just shopping for one specific lender, and you're just comparing prices. So the same thing with student loans. Even if you do it 100 times. So
interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and the same thing with refinancing. A lot of people I tell.
Wait, so what's refinancing? We said it a few times already.
So refinancing right now, in my opinion, I don't think anybody on federal student loans should be refinancing. The only people that should be refinancing are the ones that know they want to pay it off as quickly as possible. Even those people, I think they shouldn't refinance until September 30th, which is when the grace period ends, when the forbearance ends and our interest kicks in and our payments kick in.
So again, what is refinance? So what is specific?
So refinance is basically, let's say you have a loan at a 7% or 8% or 9% interest rate. Actually, my brother-in-law had that 9% interest rate.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because they take their credit score when you're just in school and you have a poor credit score, so they jack up the prices, the private lenders. For whatever reason, let's say if you can't get the financial aid or financial loan from a federal government, you have to turn.
So so just real quick, what's a good rate? Like a good interest rate?
So right now,
like for a college student, he's getting a loan. He doesn't know if it's high or low.
Right now, from First Republic Bank, you could probably get like a 2.9%, but it's very hard to apply for to be eligible for that kind of loan. First Republic Bank. Then they have Laurel Road. Then you have Earnest. Then you have Common Bond.
Guys, write this down.
There's a bunch. Everything you can find on the website that I told you, student loans.
Student loan plan. What number is like a okay number?
So a good number right now, you could probably aim for anywhere from 3 to 5%, depending on your credit score. They take your credit score into account and how much you make, seeing how big of a credit risk you are, and they take it into account. And if you have any co-signers, which I don't advise.
So I know a lot of people who get their loans with their parents.
Mm-hmm.
So you just say you don't advise that.
So what a co-signer actually is your parent agrees to take on the loan as well on themselves. What ends up happening is that loan gets transferred to their credit history as well. So it's like both of you guys have a $300,000 loan in your name.
Oh, it's like both, like two people have $300,000.
Exactly. It's your loan as well as their loan. So if they want to apply for anything like a house mortgage or anything like that, or a car loan, the banks look at that and they would say, oh, you have a $300,000 loan, even though it's not yours. You're a co-signer. It doesn't matter. You're liable.
So why do people do it? I mean, I feel like the people that I talked to that did do the co-signing, they basically told me that they had no other choice.
Right.
Is that true, or is there other?
Possibly, no other choice, but because they keep getting high rates. Some people get 9 to 10%. When they add a co-signer like their mother or father, who have amazing credit scores, their interest rate drops to 6%. But I feel like the best thing to do, you could either do it with your parents, or you could just take the 9%. Once you graduate, you could just refinance it, which is what I did for my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, and a couple of other people.
So third time, I know, because we keep drawing so much information. I hope you guys are enjoying this. What's refinancing?
Refinancing, okay, let's get back to that. Even though you have a 9% loan, there's banks that once you graduate and you have an income and you prove that you have an income, will give you a very low interest rate and take your whatever, let's say you have $100,000 or $50,000, they'll take that loan, they'll pay off the other bank that's currently carrying a 9% loan. You'll get a nice letter saying that you finished up, you paid off your loan fully. That actually happened to my mother-in-law. She saw it, she thought I was super rich. She was like, oh my God, you just paid off a $27,000 loan. No, I told her that when you refinance the old loan, the new bank sends the money to the old bank right away. It takes within 30 days. You get a new contract with the new bank that says, now you have a 6% loan, or let's say a 5% loan or 4% loan with us for the same amount that you had. Okay, good job. That's pretty much it.
Basically, you have one lender, one bank pay off your old debt.
Exactly.
Your old lender. You have new debt.
Now let's say from Discover Bank, you could go to Laurel Road or Common Bond or
for better interest because you graduate, you have a job, you have better credit,
Exactly. And you could do that as soon as you graduate.
Is that like recommended? So like
highly recommended if you have private student loan debt right now. Anybody with private student loan debt, you get no subsidy from the government right now. You get no forbearance whatsoever. The best time to refinance a private loan is right now. You could probably get rates as low as 3%.
3%.
If the best thing to do is also go to this website. He gives, or any website, NerdWallet, a lot of websites out there. You apply to Laurel Road, Common Bond, Earnest. 3 is enough, I think. Just pick 3 of the best ones. A lot of them offer sign-up bonus, like $400, $500, which is what I did a couple of times.
That you just take off.
Just
take off the principal.
They you get write your check.
Oh, they write you a check.
You get it in the mail. They give you that $500 for refinancing. So you just take 3 lenders that you think are the best, giving the best rates. You apply to 1, 2, and 3. It all goes into 3 hard pulls at first, and they all get pulled into 1 hard pull on your credit history. That means your credit history does not go down as much as it would. It's not as good. Yeah, exactly. Just one by 3 or 4, maybe 10 points. Okay, but it rebounds after a month. So you do that. They all give you a rate. Let's say what I recently did for my wife. Let's say I had a 4.6% loan, and I refinanced to a 3.7%.
What? Say that again.
So 4.6 to a 3.7.
That's what? That's like almost 1%.
Almost 1%, exactly. And it's recommended if you get anywhere from 0.5 to 1% at least.
It's worth it.
To refinance. Okay. So what ends up happening once you refinance that? Like I said, the new lender pays off the old lender. You get a new rate, and you could also select what term you want. Let's say if you had a 30-year term, but you feel like you could pay it off a little faster because you got a great job and it's pretty stable. You get instead of a 30-year term, you could get a 20-year term. The payments will be a little higher, or you could get a 15-year term or 10-year term. So what I recommend, maybe start with a 15-year term, depending on your goals. Then pay it off, and if you feel like your career is accelerating really fast, you could refinance again with another lender, get that sign-up bonus of $500 or whatever it is, and refinance it to a 10-year or 5-year. Every time
How long can you refinance it?
You could refinance as many times as you want. It's like
depending on your credit.
It's like credit card churning. So before you refinance or taking out any kind of loan, it's advised to not open any credit cards up or anything. Not too much. Not too many things opening up on your FICO score. Okay, because lenders look at that when they see you're opening up too many things. That's not with the same description, like a loan, like a student loan. Let's say you get a car loan, student loan, credit card loan, all in the same month.
That's separate.
They see you as a credit risk. They feel like you're doing too many things at once. So try not to do that before you get any kind of loan. Try to wait a couple of months before you open up anything important. Let's say a mortgage or a credit card loan. So once you do that, they give you the new rate, and you could do something called the refinance ladder. You could do a 15-year, and then you could go to a new shopper. After a year, you feel like you could do it faster. Refinance it. Don't keep it at 14 years. Refinance it to 10 years or 5 years. Your rates will be high. Every time you do that, by the way, the refinance ladder, your rates, if you get a shorter term, instead of 30 years, you'll do 20 years or 15 years. They'll give you a lower interest rate. So let's say at 30 years you had 6%. If you put it 20 years, you get 5%. At 15 years, you get 4% and whatever. And in 5 years, like let's say, like I said, the First Republic Bank has the lowest rates ever. If you do it with them, but they require you to do it within 5 years to pay off your loan. So it's good for people that have only 20, 30, 50K of loans, and they'll give you a 2.9% loan. It's absolutely insane.
Wow,
that's pretty good.
So why should someone pay off the student loan? I feel like a lot of people are just like putting in the bag, not thinking about it.
So if you have private, I feel like you should pay it off as soon as possible, as soon as you can. The more interest it accrues, the longer time you have to become financial free. Meaning, your net worth is still going to be negative if you don't pay off. Let's say if you have 10K in the bank and you have 100K loans, your net worth is negative 90K.
You're broke.
Yeah, negative 90K. So if you want to pay that off, the faster you pay it off, then you start at zero, and then it shouldn't take that long. The little guidance, a little tidbit that I learned from here is that if your income is 1.25 or 1.5 times whatever you owe, so let's say you owe 100K and you make 150K a year, it's best to refinance and start paying it off as soon as possible.
As soon as possible.
Right. That's the down and dirty way of just thinking about it.
I want to give a shout out to Dave Ramsey.
Dave Ramsey?
I love this. I mean, he's not perfect.
He's amazing. He's amazing about everything. except for student loans. His idea, if you listen to any of his podcasts or anything, he says pay it off as soon as possible. Eat rice and beans and rice.
Rice and beans and rice.
You know, because he got burned when he was like 23, I think, or 27. He was in real estate. He had so many loans on himself. A lot of real estate loans. He used credit to get more
money lending.
Exactly, a lot of that stuff. And then once the stock market crashed, he pretty much,
a lot of people got burned.
He was in debt. He couldn't pay off. So what ends up happening when you take out all these loans and then the stock market crashes, all these lenders come to you and they say, listen, you owe us this money. We told you it's in deferment for, you don't worry about it for 6 months, but now we need it. Okay, we need it
now.
So he got all these guys coming to him and saying, we need our money now, all these banks. So he became completely broke, and then he found Jesus or something. I don't know. He became really Christian.
But now he's a millionaire.
And then in Christianity, it says apparently, do not be in debt. Debt is the worst thing you could ever do. So he's completely against it because he follows his own religion. But in general, he's not aware, based on, he has a lot of ignorance when it comes to federal loans. His whole thing is that the government never paid me a dime, and they're definitely going to pay you a dime. And what he uses is actually an older study. There's another repayment program it's called PSLF, Public Service Loan Forgiveness. Still exists. It's 10 years. Okay.
Oh, but this is for I mean you were talking about.
Yeah. It's for nonprofits. People that work for nonprofits. Let's say.
How like cops and no?
I'm not sure. But let's say if you work for a hospital, that's a
nonprofit.
Not-for-profit hospital, or anywhere for non-for-profit. The same, it applies the same as the 20-year and 25-year term.
Repayment.
Like I told you.
But it's 10 years.
But it's 10 years. And at the end of the 10 years, there's no tax bomb.
Ooh.
So you pay nothing. But there's a little trade-off. Are you going to take a lower pay at a non-for-profit? Or you rather have a higher pay in whatever?
Yeah, but one thing I like about Dave Ramsey, he makes you motivated, you know?
For sure.
Like he tells you that you want financial freedom.
Mm-hmm. You got to work for it.
Get out of debt. You got to work for
it. Live within your means. Live within your means.
Yeah. So, just a little shout out. He has a YouTube channel, Dave Ramsey. Millions of views. He has
amazing.
He has little clips.
It's very good with everything, getting out of debt and everything. Yeah. I just wouldn't listen to him about student loans. Everything else is beautiful.
Yeah.
Everything.
He doesn't like student loans.
Right.
Yeah, that's crazy. So refinancing is basically, one more time.
Refinancing is you go to different lenders to give you a lower interest rate. Okay,
and it's highly recommended.
Highly recommended for private loans, not federal loans.
Now, federal is depending on how much you have, either repayment or pay it off.
Right. So it's very hard to say. Everybody's situation is different. Yeah. There's a huge calculator that I was talking about in the beginning of the podcast at Student Loan Planner.
Student Loan Planner.
There's a calculator that you download. It's an Excel sheet, and you put in how much you owe, how much you expect to get, what your family size is. And then how many years, and it tells you what's your interest rate, and like I said, it gives you head-to-head comparison, how much it'll be if you refinance, how much would you refinance for, how many years it'll take. Technically, what my idea is, and a lot of people that do loans, student loan planning, what they say is, what you could do is, the worst thing you could do is just live off, pay 10% and say whatever. In 20 years, I'll think about the tax bomb that's going to be $200K in 20 years. Who cares about that? I'll live in the now, which is what a lot of people do. Yeah, it's a lot of money, but they say, okay, whatever it is, I'll think about it later. Who cares what the tax bomb is? Mm-hmm. Maybe it'll go away, which it might, but don't count for it. So the best thing to do, and this is more for retirement planning and also let's say if you want to put money away for a brokerage account, the best thing to do is open up something called a brokerage account. Vanguard.com has it. A brokerage account is just like Robinhood. A lot of people probably heard of Robinhood. It's just a trading platform. You open the brokerage account, it's like a savings account / you open the brokerage account, and let's say you pay 10% towards your loans every month. The rest, start putting away 10 to 20% of your income towards the tax bomb, or you could just put in 10% of your income.
So you're saying save for the tax bomb?
Save for the tax bomb. You definitely have to save for the tax bomb. It might not go away. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing.
Ticking time bomb.
The repay and pay, the one that just came out, it came out in 2012. There's not a lot of people that
hit it yet.
Yeah, exactly. So
there's no sad stories.
And there's no sad stories, and there's no sad stories of people saying, "Oh my God, I just had $200,000 to
sell my house."
Yeah. By the way, that tax bomb is due on day one. Okay, once the day comes, That's it. They're like, day of reckoning, man. They're gonna say, you owe us $200,000. How would you like to pay, cash or credit? That's it. So if you don't pay that $200,000, then you have to take out loans from other places. So that's the way it is right now. The best way to do it. There's a few books that I can recommend. There's a little book. It's teeny tiny, like this small. It's called The Simple Path to Wealth.
Simple Paths to Wealth.
To Wealth. It's very tiny. We'll probably put it up on the screen.
Yeah, we will.
It's a very good book. It'll tell you that instead of paying your loan off of interest rate of about 5 to 6 or whatever percentage you got, and it's simple interest. Once again, it doesn't compound. You don't pay interest on interest. Instead, what you could do is you could put it in something called an S&P 500 fund. Vanguard has that. It's called VTSAX. You'll learn everything from there. The past 100 years, VTSA or S&P 500 or the NASDAQ, which is the top 30 company. S&P 500 is the top 500 companies. What they gave back is about anywhere from 8 to 13% return on your money, and it's compounding. And like we saw before from the calculation, money interest on interest, first it starts like this and then it skyrockets. So what ends up happening is you first put that money away right now. Yeah, you're paying 6% loan over here. Plus, 6% loan gets increased over here, simple interest. Over here, you get compounding interest, 8%, and by 8%,
minimum 8%.
Yeah, 8 to 13%. But it's not like it's going to be constant 8 to 10%. That's what
this year is like 50%.
Yeah, what it showed historically is one year it could go up 30%, the other year it could go down 25%. But on average, an average is 8 to 13%, and you get a compounding interest over there in your brokerage account when you put away that money. When in 20 years the tax bomb comes, you could just withdraw it from here and pay it off like that, okay? And you're not paying it off from the pocket money that you have now. You're paying it off from the money that you invested on all the profits that you gained, okay?
Got it.
So it's a lot. That's the number one recommendation for people that are pursuing forgiveness, loan forgiveness, which are dentists, lawyers, anybody has over 200, 150K student loans. The best way to do it is like this way. You still have to save for the tax bomb, and it will calculate, and this calculator, how much you'll need to put away. So you'll put that money away. You can sleep well at night knowing that
that
exactly
in 10 years or 20 years,
exactly.
This is what it's.
And by the way, it's been going with the Democratic Senate and everything else. It's leaning more towards like socialism, which to our benefit, it's good. What they could do, most likely will do in 20 years. We still have 20 years.
You get a lot of heat for that, you know that. Right?
I mean,
honestly, my wife got student loan.
Get rid of it. Yeah. No, they probably won't forgive the whole amount.
Yeah.
But what they would do is, what is highly likely to happen in 20 years, they might just forgive the tax bond. So there'll be no tax bond. Yeah, they might. But for now, even with the tax bond, it's still a pretty cool deal. Yeah. Like I said, 500K loan, you pay off 400K, depending on your income, obviously, 400K in 20 years. And then you have 500K left over. On that, you pay 200K. I paid a total over 20 years, 600K on a 500K loan. Okay, I pretty much won.
That's one, yeah.
That's nothing. Instead of paying that 500K in like 5-year span and eat rice and beans and whatever, I could live my life normally, not overspend. Obviously, you pay 10% over here towards. It goes without saying, you pay 10% over here towards your student loans. Don't spend on luxury cars and whatever. You still have to put away towards the house and towards savings, brokerage account. Brokerage account is basically a taxable account, like Robinhood. Every time you buy or sell, you have to pay taxes on the gains. So there's a brokerage account. So it's highly recommended. And guess what? If there won't be any tax bomb in 20 years, then you use that for your kid's wedding, okay? Yeah. Or you put another down payment for another house or something like that. There's no downsides to putting away that money, okay, right now. But you got to have a plan for. It's best not to spend. If you have such high amount of loans of 500,000, it's best not to spend your hard-earned money now. It's best to let it grow for many, many years, compound interest. Use that money and pay off the tax bomb. And you only pay, if you calculate it, it's going to be instead of 6%. If you calculate all the interest that you pay, it's probably going to be like a 2-3% loan. And inflation, which is the amount that our dollar loses every year, is about 2 to 3%, regardless. So it's like, what are you paying really?
You're paying, you basically pay zero interest.
Yeah, it's like zero interest loan, and you get to live your life.
Yeah, that's only if you get federal loans.
Federal loans, yeah, not private.
Okay, so now let's Wow, this is a good conversation, right? It's a lot. It's a lot
of information. I
It's a
know.
lot.
You're probably going to have to replay this 100 times.
Replay it, write this down, research yourself, be proactive.
Definitely. Don't
'Cause
take my word for it. Do diligence for sure.
No one from the financial aid office is going to be calling you and be like, hey, listen, we just got there's a lender out there that's giving 4% interest, you're paying 8%.
No.
They ain't doing nothing for you.
No.
Even if you ask them, hey, is there any lenders out there that has less interest, they're going to say, just stick where you are.
Yeah.
You got to be really proactive. How my mom says, saving money is making money.
Exactly.
So let's switch it to the younger crowd now, right? So this podcast that I want to give everyone tools, right? So let's say the younger crowd, the 17, 18 high school kid, and first question, there's a school that's free, or let's say barely minimum, $5,000 a year, $4,000 a year, or a school that's not free.
Private school?
Private school, $50,000, $40,000. Now the difference is, I think we both could say it, is that one's easier than the other.
Of course.
Okay?
Of course. That's the whole point.
One C's an A, one
but it comes with a price tag. But it comes with a price tag.
Comes with a price tag. Now, what do you say about that,
Obviously, what I would say is take the cheaper school. It's always the cheaper school that's the most beneficial for you in the long term. All that interest, it will add up very quickly. It's not worth it. You could go to Queens College like I did for undergrad, and I was able to literally pay off the semester, the tuition, yes.
By yourself,
$3,000-$4,000, every half a year. It's okay, Whereas, let's say you go to different schools, St. John's and everything else, $30K. I don't know, man.
But
it was tough.
I'm gonna tell you something about me.
It was super tough.
Dr. Israel Shimunov, the hardest working man I know.
Oh, come on.
He was my inspiration. I remember I'm friends with his little brother Yuri Shimunov. Shout out
to Yuri.
To HD Dental Lab. I remember I used to come over to your house, and whatever, the high school kids were just trying to be loud, and Yuri was like, wait, I need to find out my brother's upstairs. He goes upstairs, he's like, nah, he's here, he's studying. No, you guys say one word, I'm gonna kick you guys out. I was like that.
That's Queens College, man. That's Queens College.
I was like, study? Who studies? And then when I got to college, I was like, you know what?
That's the way to do it.
And you gotta do it, guys.
If I could do it, anybody could do it, man.
Straight up.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. Definitely, I would say try to get in. It's gonna
don't take that instant gratification.
It's
easy.
not. And look, a little bit about myself. I also went to CUNY, and the first semester I bombed like crazy. I got a C+ in Bio 105.
No.
The hardest class in the world. Okay, I thought that's it. It was over. My career is over. I should probably just drop out or something, find something else to do, and whatever. I had some friends and my family to back me up, and they said, listen, just give it another try. Then I took a summer class of chemistry. I withdrew from that, okay?
Wow.
So I got a C++, plus I withdrew from a chemistry class. It's almost like, your whole career is over. But then, I sat down, and that's why I was studying all day long, because I'm like, I can't afford another failure or a bad grade, because there's no way I'm going to get into dental school. So I sat down, and from then on, it's possible from rock bottom, I guess you could call it, from C+ to a W, in two of the biggest medical school classes for medical school and dental school to completely you could turn it around. It doesn't matter.
Know that. I didn't know
that. Definitely turn around. Wow. And then at the end I had a pretty good GPA. I had like a 3.8, and I thought when I just like got those, I got like a 2.7 and like a 3.2 or whatever.
Wow.
And it's still possible. Like
wow.
It's still definitely possible.
I know someone. I have a good friend. He failed Orgo 2.
That's tough. That's a tough class.
And then next it was a CUNY college, obviously. Next semester got an A+.
Amazing. You see,
A+.
You could definitely do it.
He's in dental school.
Yeah, we all find excuses. Oh no, it's too hard. The professor sucks. And then I looked at my friends, and they all got A's. I'm like, how did I get a C+ and they got A's? It's just you got to be a little more studious, and everything is gonna be fine. Like one semester of failure, whatever. Just keep pushing.
Okay, so. Be proactive, even in college, looking for loans.
For sure.
Try to get the lowest interest rate. Try to get federal loans. Okay, now, I know people that don't even know what loans that they have. So how do they even? I don't know if you know, but how do you
So the government program, Studentloans.gov. It has. I'll tell you. There's different loans. There's Perkins loans. There's Stafford loans. There's Grad Plus loans. There's subsidized, unsubsidized. It's very confusing.
You got to read through it.
It's very confusing. Okay.
Say the website again.
So whatever you have the loans, you take them out from Studentloans.gov.
Studentloans.gov, guys. Remember.
Yeah. So you have those loans all set up over there. Also, you get a little. When I went to loan school, they gave us a little binder. It tells you how much you owe, how much you're gonna owe. But they scare you. They say for every dollar you take out, you have to repay $4 back. It's like insane. So, excuse me.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah. So that's it.
So now, what's the problem of having loans? Well, let's see. I mean, we went through like a lot of ways to fight it.
Mhm.
Right now, why? Why do I need to pay it back? I hear people saying, whatever, I'll just forget about it. Okay, I took the loans.
Because
what's the problem of having these loans?
The only way a federal loan is going away is if you die. Okay, you can't declare bankruptcy on a federal loan.
Even private loan too, right?
Private loan is even worse. Private loan,
Even
let's
worse.
say,
I didn't expect that to
if
come
you have a co-signer, you die, the co-signer gets all the burden. So let's say if anything happens, your mother or father or wife are going to get $300,000 loan. They didn't reap any benefits of because you're dead already. So
you guys should get a term life insurance.
Oh, term life for sure. Allstate provide that?
Huh?
Allstate provides.
Allstate provides.
Oh, you got to get term life. Term life for sure. No whole life. I mean, there's some benefits to whole life, but like for a younger crowd, I feel like it's term life.
So what else is bad with the?
So student loan, that obviously you're paying mindless interest for it's going to keep on going. Okay, it's going to keep.
Can you get a house? Can you get a car if you have?
Oh yeah, the good thing is that with these, I don't know, for lawyers, doctors, I think there's a. When they look at mortgages, they have something called a lawyer mortgage, doctor mortgage, dentist mortgage. They look at your instead of the whole sum that you owe, they look at your monthly payment. So if your monthly payment is only like 10% of your income, they say, okay, because they look at your monthly expenses to see if you could afford the mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could afford them, like if you only have, if you're paying a certain portion of your paycheck to student loans instead of paying $6 grand a month,
Mm-hmm.
they say, okay, your payment is only like $1,000. Okay, they don't look at the $300K that you have. So that's a good thing about the federal student loans. You're paying 10% of your income. You're never gonna find
private loans.
Private loans, you're always gonna have to pay $5K, $6K. They split it up either 10 years or 15 years.
It's harder if you have private loans. It's harder.
It's very hard. It's hard to qualify. So why having loans is bad is anytime you want to open up anything, you want to open up a business, you want to open up, you want to get a house, get a mortgage, get a car loan, anything. They look at your total debt, and if your debt to income ratio is very high,
debt to income ratio,
so that means you have more debt than you have income, which most of us do. They would not lend you. They would look at you as a credit risk. They would say, forget about it. They're not going to give it to you.
Forget about it.
So you have to get co-signers, and it's just a big headache. And then they have the loan on their heads, like we discussed in the beginning. So it's just not worth it.
It's crazy.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
It's a lot. So let's just segue into retirement.
Sure.
Let's talk about that a little.
Okay.
So one thing I just want to say, one thing I found out: if you put away $500 a month for 30 years,
yep,
you're gonna be a millionaire.
That's true.
Right? And if you take the calculator, if you take 500 times that by 12 months, times that by 30 years,
about 160K.
180,000.
180K. Yeah.
So we were talking about earlier about the compound interest, how that's bad if you have a loan on the compound interest, but it's good if you're the lender, right? So if you're giving the money, right? So if if that's your money and you want to invest in it and something's in compound interest, you're gonna make a lot of money. So really, in 30 years, you put 180 grand, but in the end of the 30 years, because of the compound interest, you come out with $1 million.
Right, depending on the interest rate. So let's say the interest rate was 8 to 13% after inflation. Yeah. So the way I calculate it, let's say I put away a good amount of money. I always max out my Roth IRA. Okay,
what's a Roth IRA?
So there's two. So it's called a retirement account. Okay,
retirement account.
I remember investment retirement account or.
IRA, it's investment retirement account, IRA.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so investment retirement. So there's two investment. There's 401k where you could put 19.5K every year.
Max.
If you're a W-2 employee. A W-2 employee is anybody that works for a paycheck and they deduct your taxes beforehand.
Mm-hmm. Okay? 9 to 5.
Yeah, 9 to 5 job. They deduct your taxes. You get a paycheck. You're like, whoa, where did half of my paycheck go? So that's a W-2.
IRA. Individual retirement. Okay, I knew it wasn't an investment. Okay,
thank you, Abram.
Yeah. So there's a 401k. If you have a 401k at your job, it's advised to put away your money into it, especially
if there's something called an employer match. So an employer will be like, okay, you put in $1,000, I'll match that $1,000. So you put in a couple of grand, I'll match that up to a certain percentage. So whenever you have that option, it's always best to take that option if somebody else is paying an additional money to it. It's just basically free money.
So question, I want to be devil's advocate. I'll say, why do I need that? Why do I need to think about my future? I just want to use the money now. I'm losing the money.
Okay, because look at it. Look at our whole older generation. Look at our grandparents. Half of them are on Medicaid, Medicare. They're living on SSI. They're living in a one-bedroom apartment, and they're getting help from their kids. Okay, this is not the way we want to turn out. Okay, we're
as a community.
They had a disadvantage. They came from Russia. They weren't financially savvy. How things run around here. We could learn all this stuff from the simple 1 or 2 or 3 books, okay? How to be financially savvy. We could look at the research for the past 100 years, how we got compounding interest and how everything worked, and we could be way ahead of them and take care of them when they're old, okay? Our grandparents already is too late, but for our parents, if we do this, we could probably, once they retire, we could probably save enough money to help them out.
For them.
So you're saying for us and them.
For us, okay, so we have option one, how I want to live my life, right? So me and you, we're in our 20s, 30s, you know?
Number one.
Wherever we are. It's either when we turn 65, we retire, we have no money in our name.
And we go on Medicaid, and we feel like it's the best thing ever. It's not.
And we live in our kids' house, and they got to take care of us. Because I know a lot of people who say to their kids, you're going to take care of me when I get older. You're going to, and then the kid is like, what do you mean I'm going to take care of you?
Right. And how
I got loans. I got student loans I got to pay for.
Exactly. So how?
So that's one option, right? That's one option. So what is the alternative? How? Because for me, I feel like we only see one alternative, that the parents always live with the kids when they get old. Like, they're not financially free. They're usually dependent.
Or they're Section 8.
Section 8. They're.
It's just So what's the other? It's a sad way to end your life. Okay, you're balling your whole life, but you're spending it on cars and luxury cars, which you can still do, but be smart about it. And then by the time you get 65, you're not going to want to go in a 1-bedroom apartment, be on SSI and Medicaid. By the way, if your pension plan from your job exceeds the Medicaid limit, which is about 17, 18 grand, if you make above that, you're off Medicaid. Okay, so
the max you get is 18 grand a year.
18 grand a year totaling from your SSI and pension, and then it comes, you have to pay some extra payments, maybe a month, and they could raise that up to maybe 20, 30 grand or something. If you make above that, you get no more Medicaid. So
how what's the second option? How? And I was just I was shown this recently, that I was always thinking about now, how can I make as much money as possible now, save up now, and then maybe retire on a business that has cash flow. Right. But then once I got into it, I was like, wait, I'm not trying to run a business when I'm 80, 65, 70 with cash flow. Thinking about expenses, payroll, this and that. So how can you retire? How do these people retire and financially free? How's it possible?
So number one thing I could do, there's also the FIRE movement.
I heard about
financial freedom, retire early.
That's worse than
it's extreme.
Okay,
it's extreme.
Eat sand and rocks.
Yeah. But then you could retire in 5 years.
Yeah.
So there's another way. Like we said, in the compounding interest, the calculator, even a couple of years. You could do this. You could go to bank.
I have a compound interest calculator.
Go ahead. So let's say retiring 30 versus retiring 30. Retiring 30 years versus retiring in 34 years.
That's a huge difference.
And 8%. Yeah.
Listen, if you take 1 cent, right? We
double it. Yeah.
And double it. The last 10 years goes from 20,000 to 220 million.
Yeah. So let's see. Let's put in. Let's say there's a Roth IRA calculator you could pull up. So let me.
I have this. Where is it? Let's see where it is. I want to get this. I had a good one I used to use all the time. So I was addicted to this calculator for 2 weeks.
So look. There's one right now, NerdWallet. So how old am I right now?
Let's say NerdWallet. Yeah.
Let's say I'm right now 29 years old.
Oh, here I have investor.gov. I like that one.
Okay.
It's a government approved. Okay,
but we got to put in the Roth IRA. I want to do this example with the Roth IRA.
Okay, do it.
So let's say, so 29 years old. I put in what's your income before taxes. Let's say.
It's like a nice app.
Yeah. Okay, then what's your current Roth IRA balance? So let's say you just put in, let's say $6,000, which is the maximum you could put in for a Roth IRA.
Okay, so let's say my first year I decide
to max it out, $500 a month.
Okay.
For 12 months, $6,000.
Okay.
You put in next. You let's say are single. It doesn't really matter. Okay. So now
he says $6,000 a month.
$6,000 a year, $500 a month.
No, it's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's $500.
So what is that $500 a month right now that I give?
So let's see when I retire. When does it give it?
So let's say the average guy, let's say you're 35. Let's say you ran a little late. Okay?
Hold on, sorry.
I mean, if
So-
any 20-year-olds are listening to this, they should do this.
Definitely. So, and I'll go over what Roth IRA versus traditional IRA is.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say I'm 29 years old and I decide to retire at 60 years old. Okay,
Okay,
which is pretty good.
What do you mean retire? What does that mean?
Retire meaning it doesn't mean
You don't work, and you say
Not
you
exactly.
have the same lifestyle as you have.
Not exactly. You don't have to not work. Okay, you could still work, but you work on your own terms. That's what financial freedom
You're not
is.
dependent on your
You're not
work.
dependent on your paycheck to get from
live
month
your
to month.
lifestyle.
Yeah, you could work. You could not work. You could do something that you enjoy. You know, you could go teaching or something in the school.
How's that possible, Dr. Shimunov? Money's not flying from the sky.
That's what I'm saying.
How am I going to have the same lifestyle that I had for working for 60 years,
Right.
and I just stop work? I don't need to work anymore and keep that lifestyle.
Right.
How's that possible? Is it possible? First,
Of course it's possible.
possible.
So,
Let's
so look, so annual contribution, this is the old calculator where annual contribution was raised now to 6,000, was 5,500. So let's say I put in 5,529. I already have a $6,000 starting balance. Age of retirement 60, and then you put an expected rate of return is 8%. That's what you get on S&P 500.
That's a minimum.
Minimum.
That's a minimum.
So that's being safe.
So yeah, being safe. So total contribution over the next 31 years will be $170,000.
So you put 170,000 into the account.
Yes. And let's see what I get. The total that I take out is $797,000.
797.
Okay.
That's 8%, and that's the minimum. Remember.
That's the minimum.
That's the worst case scenario.
Right. Worst case scenario. Maybe 7 if you're pushing it, but okay. But like that's going to be the worst. All right. So let's say now instead of 60 years old, let's do 65.
65.
Okay.
So we have, let's round it out to 800,000, right?
Yeah, 800,000
years.
for till 60. Let's say if I wait just 5 more years before taking my money out. Calculate.
Like 3 million.
No, not that much. So total is $1.2 million.
1.2 million.
Okay, so that's $400,000 for waiting another 5 years.
50% increase.
Yeah, $400,000 just for waiting 5 more years.
This is only if you're starting at age 29.
No, it depends. No, it's if you do about 36 years. 36 years versus 31 years.
Well, that's only $500 a month.
Yeah, $500 a month.
Imagine if we do 1,000. See, but the thing is, if you
But
do
you can't do 1,000.
Okay, well, you could do separate account. You could have a separate.
No, only $6,000 for you. You could have $6,000 for your wife though.
No, but let's say you open up a separate investment account, retirement account.
Yeah, like a SEP IRA.
Yeah.
You could definitely do that. Yeah, you could definitely do that. It's up to $25,000.
Put it.
Yeah, brokerage account is it's not tax free though.
That's the thing. This is tax free.
Right. So we said for 5 years. So where am I going with this? You said what's the best thing to do is when you're young, start investing when you're young. You see 1 or 2 or 5 years make a huge difference. That's a total of $400,000 that you could have had had you started at 21 versus 25 or 26. Just start as early as possible. I know you think, oh, who gives you can say, who cares? Okay, who cares? I'll think about it when I'm 40 or 50. As you can see, 34 years of compounding versus 20 years of compounding, you're literally going to get like half or like 1/4 of what you would have gotten had you waited another like 5 or 10 years.
So now let's say I have the 1.2 million. Okay, fine, Dr. Shimunov. I'm going to start, I'm 29, 25. I'm going to save $500 a month, put it into the Roth IRA, right? 6,000 a year. I turn 65. Okay, I have this 1.5 million. Now what? I could waste it in like a couple of years if I have
exactly. Depends on how much you were earning beforehand. So let's say if we're expected to earn 100K a year. Okay, we'll live off. Let's say we'll live off 100K a year. The formula, the down and dirty formula, is you need to have 25 times your annual income in savings. Okay, when you retire, 25 times. So you need about 100. If you let's say 100K,
2 million.
You mean $2.5 million. So that's definitely doable if you have your income and your wife's income together, and you both put away 6,000. You have and think of it this way: you put away that $500, and you don't have to think about retirement at all. You're done. That's it.
Okay, so you have the 2.5 million. What do you do with that?
So now you start spending it 100K a year. You don't have to work. Okay.
Okay, so how many years? 25 years?
25 years, but not only that, you don't take it out all of a sudden completely out of the stock market. Okay. You take it out year by year. You take it out, year 1, you take out 100K. The rest is still in there. The rest is still making you money.
So how much?
So if you have $1 million in the account, You take out 100,000,
You still have $900,000.
but then in a year it's going back to $1 million.
In the year, it's increasing. I don't know exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's if a stock market is having a good year. Okay, like I said, this is an average.
Average. Okay, fine.
You could literally, if you take
You
it
could
out
lose
25, if you take it out, if you take it out year one, the stock market could drop 20% or 10%.
Again, there also are, we should say, okay, so
there's ways to mitigate that.
Yeah, there's ways
That's
to
for
mitigate
sure.
that.
And you can learn this on Passive Simple Wealth. That's one. Another book I recommend is Tony Robbins, Money Master the Game. It's not this small. It's actually this small. It's about like 600 pages, okay? But it's so interesting. Anybody I gave that book to, I gave it to my brother-in-law, I gave it to my brother. Anybody that looked into it, just the first few pages, you get sucked into it. It's everything you need to know about finances. So you could start small with a simple path to wealth, or you could go big and...
I'll put the links.
Right.
To these books.
And obviously, there's another book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's like a classic. Everybody's heard of it. Everybody and their grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good book also. But like I said, you take out $100K a year, and you effectively just living off the stock market returns for the rest. Even if you live 40 years, it doesn't matter because your money is still in the stock market and it's still making you. So what does that mean exactly? This just means that 25 times your income just means that you're kind of like. You're thinking about getting about 4% return, okay? Worst case scenario, 4% return.
Scenario.
Yeah, 4% return on your money that's all over there, and you'll technically never run out of money. If you get 4% on 2.5 million, you'll never run out of money. You keep getting that.
4%
You keep getting that 100K.
100,000.
You keep getting that 100K,
Yeah,
okay?
I understand.
So if you get that, so that's the whole.
So look at this. I'm playing devil's advocate.
Go ahead.
Right? I believe in this.
Go ahead.
I was converted into this. Now, let's say I feel like a lot of, like you said, you want to help our parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say if you're like 20, 30 years old, your parents like 40, 50, right? So maybe you have like 20 years to catch up, but you have to trust the system.
Which one?
You have to trust the stock market. You have to trust the mutual fund.
True.
You have to trust the NASDAQ, S&P. But we came from a country where the system always basically, screwed us, right? It was dangerous. It's risky. How can we trust it? I get it. It's 100 years of, data, but how do we know, like 20 years from now, 15 years from now, maybe...
No guarantee. I mean, how do you know the asteroid is not going to hit tomorrow and then destroy the whole Earth? You don't know.
He sold me.
You don't know. You really don't know. But you rather get there with money than get there without money and then saying, like I should have saved.
But people do this, right? I mean, how long have people been doing what you were saying? Say $500 a month
for 401k. They've been doing it for a while, since as long as it's been established, for 30 years or whatever, 35 years, 40 years, whatever it's been. People have been doing it with 401ks. The reason why I
think 401k is the number one wealth creator in America.
Yeah, because what ended up happening is, I forgot which president did this, but once the 401k was established, the retirement planning, the stock market just got infused with a huge amount of cash flow from an everyday person like you and myself. Before, it was only the elite that used to invest in the stock market and get high returns, and so then once the little guys started investing in their pension funds and their 401ks into the stock market, started shooting up. That's why we see these returns as well. Okay, So anyways, let me get back to what a 401k is, and what traditional IRA is, and what Roth IRA is, okay? 401k, like I said, is a W-2 employee, okay? 19.5k you put away. They do all the investing for you.
Who's they?
So every single company that you work for has somebody that they have a 401k management company. Okay, the only thing is they do take fees, 1 to 2% of fees. It's very hidden fees. They would never tell you about it. If you can see from compounding interest, if you ever go back and you try to play around with the calculator that you just said, and you instead of 8%, you said 6%, just 1 or 2%,
huge difference,
will take off 100, 200, 300k from your final. So them taking a small percentage, it's a big deal. And as well as mutual funds, whenever go to these large brokerages that you give 50k to 100k just to get started, they go in and out of the market. They also charge fees every time they do it. Okay, and
but then again, it's better than nothing, right?
It's better than nothing, yeah, for sure.
So if you're not doing nothing,
no. But here's the best thing, okay? And then you could read literally 100,000 books on this, okay? Every single one of them will tell you the same thing. The safest thing, well, relatively safe, other than holding your money in cash and gold and whatever, is to put it into an S&P 500 type fund. Okay, and there's many. It's an index fund. It's basically 500 of the largest companies. The reason why it's safer, is it's very diversified, and you want to diversify your portfolio as much as possible. Meaning you want to have some, your hands in gold. You want to have your hands in, the real estate market, everywhere, just in case one sector does poorly, you're good in the other sector.
And who does the managing?
So you yourself could do that, okay? But what I'm saying is, let's say the S&P 500 is 500 of the top companies in the United States, like Apple, Tesla, Google, FANG, whatever, all that stuff. So when one goes down, another one goes up, it kind of averages out, okay? And as soon as they reach a certain level where they already automatically, they do poorly for a number of years, they get kicked out of the S&P 500, a new company that's doing well gets added in, like Tesla just got added in, okay? And that spikes the stock market. That's why we always have the stock market going up and up and up and up, because we're always making money and always new companies coming in with new ideas, and it keeps going unless there's a stock market crash, which happens every 8 to 10 or 15 years or whatever, and we still rebounded. Look, we've been through Vietnam War, we've been to World War II, World War I, we've been through, the 2000 dot-com stock market crash, 2008 housing market crash. We've still recovered.
Even COVID. We recovered.
And we recovered the fastest with COVID.
The fastest.
Okay?
Couple of weeks.
Exactly.
It was crazy.
So it's always going to, go up no matter what happens. And Warren Buffett always says, don't bet against America. So S&P 500 is, the America. It's America's top 500. NASDAQ is the 30 companies in America, the biggest ones, and a lot of tech in there as well. But basically, just invest your money into there and let it rock by yourself while using a traditional or in a Roth IRA, which you could open up at Vanguard.com or Fidelity.com. You could open up your own. Let's say if you're self-employed, you could do a SEP IRA, but that's for a very small number of people. It's 25K limit. If you're just self-employed or whatever, you want to open up your own, you want to manage your own retirement plan, which you could do yourself. Literally, it's nothing complicated about it. The Simple Path to Wealth, the book will teach you everything you need to know about it. There's one stock which mimics the S&P 500, the index fund, which is called VTSAX or VTI. Okay, those are index funds. They mimic the S&P 500. You set your money over there, you're as if you're getting 8 to 13% a year averaged out. So you pretty much, that's all you have to do. You leave the 6K, invest it into there, forget it, come back in 30 years and claim your money. That's basically the way it works. Okay, so once you do that, you have the 2.5 million. You never have to worry about retirement ever again.
That's it. You don't have to live with your kids.
No,
you can go on vacation.
Exactly.
Get a car.
And you never have to worry about it when you're 40. You're like, oh my God, I have to catch up to all that money. But you just wasted 10 years from the time you're 30, or 15 years by the time you're 25 to 40 that you could have compounded that interest. And you can see that that's very powerful stuff that you could have projected your financial freedom and retirement into outer space. Just by doing that. By simple $500 a month. What's $500 a month? We'll go out $500 a month.
Exactly. One date is like $100.
Yeah, exactly. So you put that away, you never have to worry about that. Now, this is the retirement plan. So the difference between 401k is in W2. W2 employees, they could do that. They could also put away in traditional and Roth IRA. So what's the difference between the traditional and Roth IRA path? So a traditional IRA is $6,000 a year also. Maximum. If you're over 50, it's $7,000. A Roth IRA is also $6,000. So what's the difference between? This one was created by a guy named Roth. I forgot his first name. Traditional IRA works just like a 401k. Whenever you put money into a 401k or traditional IRA, you do not have to pay taxes on it. So what does that mean for W2 employees? W2 employees where they put in 19k, let's say, into their retirement account, 401k. At the end of the year, the government says, oh, you put in 19k into your retirement account, we overtook your taxes. Actually, we took too many taxes off of you. Here you go. Here, take the 30% that we took off that 19k.
So simple example. Let's say you make $4,000 a month.
Yeah.
So really, let's say you have 30% tax bracket, right? So instead of getting taxed on the $4,000, right, you would get taxed on, let's say, $3,500. Yeah, because you're putting away $500 into, like, let's say, if you want to put in 60k, you could still do that in 401k. So you would save. You get taxed on less income.
Exactly.
Because it's not like you're throwing the money away. You're putting in it for the future.
Right. You don't get taxed on a 401k. You don't get taxed on traditional IRA. Okay.
You get taxed after whenever you take it out.
Exactly. So the Uncle Sam always collects.
Always.
So you have to wait. Let's say at 59 and a half. That's when you could withdraw from your 401k, from your traditional IRA, from your Roth IRA. They would say, okay, you did not pay us this taxes for the growth for the money you put in. Now you have to pay taxes for the money you put in and the growth. Okay, whatever you take out. Let's say you want to take out 100K. Good, 100K. You're about 30% tax bracket, whatever it's going to be. You don't know what it's going to be in 30 years. Okay, you're like 30% tax bracket. So every time you pull out 100K, you have to put 30K. You give it to us. Okay, and you could just play around with the 70K. So that's a traditional and a 401K. Okay. You don't have to pay taxes. You get a write-off when you put it in, but when you take it out, you have to pay the government their fair share. Now, what is a Roth IRA? So a Roth IRA is after-tax money. Let's say you already paid taxes on your money. You have clean money. You already paid the government your taxes. At the end of the year, or let's say monthly, you could use that clean money. You put the $6,000 total into the Roth IRA, and at the end, you don't get a deduction. Okay, you don't get any money back, nothing from the government, nothing from your W-2. And you have to basically pay taxes on the money. So since it's taxed when it's going in, when you take it out and all that growth over the years, $1.2 million is purely cash. You don't have to.
You don't pay taxes?
You pay zero taxes because you already paid taxes on it. So you already paid taxes on the Roth IRA when you put it in. So, Uncle Sam got his fair share. And now you basically just take it out. And you could use it, exactly. So a good way to do it, it depends on your income, okay? If you're in a lower tax bracket, which a lot of people are, put into Roth IRA. Because look, you're paying only 10% or 15% or 20% tax right now when you're in the lower tax. Let's say you're making $50K a year. You're like in the 20% tax bracket. You're paying very little for that $6,000 of that tax. For that 6,000, whereas if you were, let's say, have 500K, you're like in a 50% tax bracket. You're paying like on that 6K, you just paid 3K of
exactly.
Yeah, basically, it's best to use traditional IRA when you have high income, and Roth IRA when you use low income. You also get phased out. You can't. They don't allow you to use a Roth IRA when you hit about 137. I think from 137K, if you make that much, they don't allow you to do a Roth IRA. But you could do something called a backdoor IRA. You could first put it into traditional, then you could flip it to Roth IRA. So anyways. So once you do that, so the question is basically, which one would you prefer? Okay, would you rather put in the money now, but you don't get a tax break, or you get it, in the future? The best thing, like I said, is when you're in low tax bracket, when a lot of us that are just graduating, getting very little in the beginning, or let's say we're working part-time somewhere, just got a little money inside, and we're literally paying nothing. The first $12,700 of your income is completely tax-free mostly. You just pay payroll taxes of 7.65% or something like that. So it's like 7.65% you just paid on that 6K. Put it away into a Roth IRA,
In 30 years, it's going to be $1 million. You don't got to worry about
exactly. So, or you could do, a little bit of both, traditional and Roth. So at the end, you take out 40K from a Roth, 50K from the Roth, 50K from a traditional. You only pay taxes on the 50K, and it's as if you only have 50K.
Yeah.
50K.
But this type of thing that we're talking about, it's like you really got to have control of your finances. You know? And I feel like a lot of people don't even know
that's
what their monthly expenses.
Exactly. Well, you could go to mint.com. Mint.com actually tracks you put in all your credit cards in there, you put in all your bank accounts, you put in all your student loans, everything.
All your bills too.
Your bills, everything.
Wow.
Okay. It shows everything, and it shows you what your expenses are, where you're spending the most. And if you could cut back it a little bit on that. And once you do that, that's it. Once you know exactly, примерно how much you spend, like you spend like 10 grand a month or like 5 grand a month, you could say, okay, I spend 5 grand a month, I make 10K, I spend 5 grand a month, I have about 5K, I pay taxes, whatever, I have 2K left over. Let me put that away. Let me put a portion of it away, like let's say 1K, let me put away 500K into a brokerage account, where brokerage account, by the way, is for short term. Let's say if you want to buy a house in 5, 10 years, 15 years, put it in there, let it compound, and then you withdraw it, buy a house, or let's say a wedding for your kids. Let it compound, take it, put it. So that's taxable. Every time you take it out, it's taxable. Whereas the Roth IRA, you could back and forth sell, and nothing happens. So, anyways, you could do $500 to a brokerage account, $500 to a Roth IRA. Put 6K away to a brokerage, 6K away to a Roth IRA, and let it compound, and that's it. The other 1K, go have fun with it.
Yeah.
Then you could have 10 to 15% of discretionary income where you just do whatever the hell you want.
And even if you're making 5K, 4K a month, it's the same thing, because you're living right now on a 5K lifestyle a month. So when you retire, you want to make sure you retire on the same 5K a month. So it's ratio.
Right.
So if you're making 10K, you want to retire in a 10K lifestyle.
Exactly.
But you have to plan. You got to take a certain amount of money away from your paycheck every single month, and you got to put it into retirement
For
account.
sure. The key, like I said, is all compound interest. Because if
All
you think
compound.
about it, like, why would I put on 500K just so I could have 500K in 30 years? That's
Yeah.
not how it works. Why would you put in 500? This is why, because you put in 500K away now, so you can have 10K or 5K in the future. That 500K will be 5K after inflation, because it's already adjusted for inflation to 8%. So what?
It grows.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
$500 a month. 30 years it turns into $1 million.
Right.
I think I read a study. I think it was like 60% of millionaires never made more than $100,000 a year.
Wow.
It was like I read that. I was like, well, what?
Wow.
How can you be a millionaire?
They save a lot.
It's because of the retirement account.
Right.
All you gotta do, $500 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And think about it. This is if you're husband and wife. It's like really $250 if you have two employees. You know,
Right.
two.
Right.
So yeah, you could do it, and it's crazy. Then you retire.
Definitely.
You don't gotta worry about
Anything else?
Being with your
At least
kids.
that part of your life is covered.
Yeah.
And at 65, you might think it's far away, and you might think you're old.
It's right around
At
the corner.
65, yeah, and also you're not that old. Right? Look at the life expectancy. What is it, like 88 average
Mm-hmm.
of 86 or average life expectancy in America? You're 65. You still got another
Mm-hmm.
21 years to go. You really want to work a 9 to 5 job or a 9 to 7, 9 to 8 job? No, everybody gets dies
Exactly.
down a little bit. You want to relax. You want to go spend time with your kids, your grandkids. You want to go on vacations, and you don't want to work for it. That's it.
Yeah. One thing I want to recommend to people to look at home is that if you're on a W-2, if you have an employee, especially if you work like hospitals, nurses, they give really good deals on retirement. They match really high.
Right,
Like they
right.
do 100% matching.
Hospitals.
So let's say you want to put $6,000 a year away for retirement, they'll give you $6,000 on top. So you're really doubling your money. And second of all, a lot of barbers out there, jewelers, a lot of people that aren't working on W-2, they got to figure something out. They gotta work on their own retirement plan because when they retire,
I mean, they got it under their mattress, the retirement.
I mean, the inflation. I mean, what is it?
That's true. Inflation.
Okay, you save up $500,000.
Right.
You're gonna spend it in
Exactly.
It needs to be an account. Your money needs to be
Right.
making money.
So the reason also, like, for anybody that doesn't know what inflation does to your money, let's say if you take $1 now and you bury it, or like let's say $100 you bury it now, next year you open it up, it's as if it's now $98, and then you wait another year because inflation is 2% a year.
2%.
So
And it's like compound interest. Right? If you think about it,
Exactly.
It's compounded.
Yeah. So it devalues. Your money devalues if it's just standing there, not even in. And if you think about, let's say, the savings accounts that give us 1 or 2%, it barely matches what the inflation is. You're still losing some money on it. But if you
Where do you get savings for 1.2%?
now exactly now it's like impossible.
0.001.
It was before the pandemic. It was 1 to 2%.
Oh, now it's
No, before
the pandemic.
it was 1 to 2%. Now it's like 0.5 or something. Allied Bank, I think, is maximum 1%. So that's it. If you just let it, do its thing.
You gotta focus. So basically, we gotta be proactive.
For
We
sure.
gotta be proactive with our finances.
And just read a few books on Shabbat. Whoever keeps Shabbat, you literally have nothing to do the whole day. Just take a couple hours. You can go probably through 10 to 15 pages, or there's a lot of good YouTube channels like, let's say, Meet Kevin. Okay,
Meet Kevin.
One of them is Graham Stephan. Amazing. He'll explain to you everything you need to know about Vanguard, S&P 500, index funds in 15 minutes, and he does it very well. 100 times better than me. Okay, so if you check that out, you're already set up for success. Then you have Andre Drick. There's a bunch of YouTubers that his YouTube is just full of information, of this stuff. Okay, and it'll teach you everything you need to know. And then you could go and read up on some books on your free time. I don't read books on regular days. I don't know.
Those type of books, I leave it in my bathroom on Shabbat.
Oh, exactly. The best time, man.
I got another, my case, my phone.
The best time, man.
I've been reading Dale Carnegie, right?
How to Win Friends and Influence People.
I highly recommend it.
Oh, it's amazing. I read it 8 years ago.
I read it when I go to the bathroom. I read a chapter.
Amazing. Still hold true whatever they said then.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's a very good book. Highly recommend it.
Exactly.
There's so many. There's a lot of videos out there. I'm not a book guy, right? I like videos. I like podcasts. I like stuff like that. But books, I realize, is very important. No matter how many videos you watch, how many articles you
For
read,
sure.
books, because they go in deep.
I
They
feel
go
like
in deep that.
they convince you, because you're reading there for many hours,
Yes.
and it's your own voice reading it to yourself.
Yeah.
It feels like you you get convinced a lot more than
Yeah, but
somebody else telling you
they
that.
say things like it's so organized, and it's like it's scripted in a way. You know, it's like it's written
sure.
specifically this way. It's trying to convey a message. But like videos, it's kind of sometimes you know, spontaneous, and sometimes
Yeah.
it's not really
Right.
100% on the message.
For sure, I agree.
That's
Books
great.
are the best.
Books are the best. So, all right, Izzy, I think we could finish it off.
Yeah,
It's time.
definitely.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Yeah, so this podcast, I just want to reiterate, anyone that's listening, I hope you enjoyed. I think we'll leave some contact information, some emails. If you want to email me, if you have any questions for Izzy, you can email me.
Sure.
I'll forward it to Izzy. Any like books, any recommendation. Yeah, if you like it, please comment on the videos. If there's a chance, like it, share it. I wanna grow this podcast. This podcast specifically to help people. You know, I hope this conversation helped a lot of people. And yeah, if you have something interesting to say, something interesting to give to our community, please contact me. You know, and you had a good time.
Great time.
Great time. It's
Thanks
nice.
for having me, man.
Thank you, Abram, for setting everything up over here. Anytime. And this podcast is sponsored by Allstate Insurance. You're in good hands. Yeah. Guys, Moses out. Thank you very much, Dr. Shimunov.
Got it, man.
God bless you, and see you soon.